Hello friends, welcome back to Gym Philosophy in the Morning. I'm the Gym Philosopher. Today we're talking about fear at the table, how to actually scare your players. And I mean scare as in, create a suspenseful situation or maybe you're playing a game that has a scary scene, sort of like the kind of fear a horror movie would evoke. How do you do that at the game table? I'm going to tell you right now that, you don't want to pressure yourself too much on this one. Hopefully you're not actually scaring your players in a real life sense. The fear that players experience at a game table that is probably the most potent is going to be sort of like in-game fear. And a bit of that does come out of the game into real life. I'm going to kind of describe how that works in this video. And I want to start with basically describing the context here. The way really that you achieve fear, that you achieve horror, that you achieve dread, scariness in a TTRPG, at the table. And this is easier to do. This is easier to do at a physical table, but it can be done in VTTs as well, maybe to a little bit lesser extent. It's just a little more difficult to achieve it. But the way that you do this is by getting players really tuned in. That's step number one. Step two, they have to care about the game. There have to be real in-game stakes at stake. So maybe it's like, they volunteered to help this family by clearing the ghosts out of the house. Well, you have to get them to care about the family, or you have to get them to care about, losing something or that something is in danger. At the core, this could mean their player character. Like, they might be afraid of losing their player character, and then, that translates to fear. But in order for there to be some kind of fear, there has to be like basically the potential to lose something, and that will be significant. So you've got to get them to buy in enough and care about something enough that you have emotional leverage. And this leads us to the third thing. You need to show that you're threatening the thing they care about without making it apparent how the threat will manifest. Okay, this is one of the key points to horror, and I'm going to come back to this in a minute. But then point number 4 is you even need to kind of veil and hide what it actually is they're afraid of, to the point where there are large pieces of that danger that are unknown to them. And then when you reveal big pieces of this danger at unexpected times, this does create a feeling of dread, because it lets the player character know, oh no, what I thought was happening is not actually happening. I don't have as much control over the situation as I thought. The things I care about are in jeopardy now, because I suddenly realize I don't understand the context of the situation. That is how you use, basically in-game leverage to create a sense of dread, horror, and actually scariness in your games, okay? Now, if you want that stuff, that good stuff, the scariness, the dread, if you want that to come out of the game and actually affect the player's emotions, like for example, if you actually want a player to be a little bit afraid, kind of like in the same way they might be afraid if they watched a movie and they have a little bit of, they're actually afraid, like they're creeped out. If you want that to happen, then what you really need to do is you need to get them really engrossed in the story and really invested. Okay, so players who are just kind of like, hanging out, they're browsing their phone, taking a bite of pizza, and then, oh, it's my turn? Let me see. Let me look at my character sheet. What abilities do I have again? Like, those kind of players are probably not going to experience the real good stuff, the fear, the dread that you're trying to give them in the game. The people who are going to actually enjoy it in game are going to be the people who are really tuned in, who are dialed in with you. Okay, so now there's a part of this where selecting the right players to begin with is a great way to even open the door to this kind of gameplay. But there's also an element of, as the game master, trying to like bring those players into the game, create emotional resonance, get them involved in the story. In fact, if you want to grab my Advanced Art of TTRPG Mastery, that's what that book is all about. It's a 50-page book I wrote all about how to use emotional resonance to really get your players invested in the game, because that is what I think is the key, number one most important skill that GMs can leverage to make their games awesome. And I do think it's overlooked by most GMs. So links down in the description, go grab that. That's going to help you learn how to do that. But the point is that if you can get a player really invested, you can totally get them to be afraid in game. Because here's what happens. I'm gonna walk you through these steps, and then I want to talk about how you can actually get it to translate to outside of game a little bit. Okay, so first, they encounter a situation. Their character, they think that their character kind of has it under control. The character's a monk who can fight really well, and it's like, well, I have magic fists. Who can really mess with me? Nobody, right? This is kind of the bravado, the confidence of the player character. Then they go into haunted house, and it's like, okay, I'm ready to punch some ghosts. Any zombies in here, they're not going to stand a chance. We have our cleric with us, so they're very confident. But then they see a spectral little girl, and it's like, oh, she's a ghost. The paladins like detect good and evil, like trying to sense if she's evil and sense if she's undead. See, right now everything is understandable. They understand what's going on here. Like, they can explain this. So this is not yet scary. Maybe it's interesting, and it's in your best interest to make it interesting. See, you want to draw them in. Now, why would they care about this? Well, maybe let's just say, for example, that the thing that they care about in this case are the characters. Like, so the monk cares about themselves. The player doesn't want to lose their monk. They want their monk to shine and to succeed. So right now they feel pretty good about it. They're like, well, if I stick close to the paladin and the cleric, I can't really get in too much trouble. And I have magic fists, don't forget, right? So they're not in too much trouble. They feel in control of the situation. And then let's say the little girl, blinks around and she starts laughing at them. And then they're like, what's going on? They roll an arcana check. Oh, they roll very well. It looks like she's, misty stepping. Oh, okay. So see, right now that kind of takes away the scariness. Outside of the fact that she's powerful enough to misty step, really, the truth is this isn't very scary because everything is still operating within the boundaries of the known. And if players understand something, then they can calculate risk and they can figure out how to handle it, right? So this is all still safe zone territory. But then let's say that you have the little spectral girl do something really kind of bizarre that throws them off. So let's say, for example, that, she suddenly claps her hands and then they hear what sounds like this ghostly growl happen around them. And suddenly they realize that they are now standing on the ceiling, right? And they're upside down. Okay, this is very different. The characters might say, whoa. The character might be like, I think this is an illusion. I'm going to roll, a perception check to see if I can tell if this is an illusion. Maybe the paladin's like, I'm rolling a religion check. I'm praying to my God. They're all going to do all the things they're going to try to figure out what's going on. Why? Because when something unknown happens, our number one kind of way we cope with that is by reaching out and trying to figure out what's going on. But in the case of a scary TTRPG session, like a horror session or something where you want to kind of make your characters afraid, then what you want to do is threaten that sense of equilibrium. So maybe they are now upside down on the ceiling. The paladin goes to pray, and I say, uh-oh, something's happening. You're praying, but you don't feel the same kind of connection with your God. You're getting what almost could be described as divine radio static of some kind. It's almost like your prayers are getting jumbled as they leave you, and you don't hear a response, and you feel like your prayers aren't even really working right for some reason, right? So then you say to the person who rolled the arcana check, so you roll, and here's the thing, you have been trained in the art of illusion magic. You've seen illusion magic, you learned it in your blah, blah, blah backstory. You went to the arcane college, and you're such and such a level. You've seen things, you've done things, you've tricked people. And as you look around, you would be tempted to be alarmed by the fact that this is in no way any kind of illusion magic that you have ever experienced before. You're looking at the details, you're looking at the this and that, and just, without, actually being an expert at illusion magic myself, I'm just going to tell you that your character, being an expert at illusion magic, would look around and would maybe start to wonder what is going on. Your character can't figure it out. It does not seem to be an illusion of any kind, of any nature that you have ever encountered before. Nor does it seem to have any hints or clues relating it to anything you've seen before, right? So I'm going to describe this because I want to try to help the player understand to what extent they don't understand, right? Now, for the player who was going to roll a perception check to try to see what's going on, right? I'm going to try to give it a little clue. I'm going to say, okay, so you notice the spectral girl is still standing on the ground. She's not standing on the ceiling like you were. You see her up ahead, and she's still standing on the ground, and you see her grin, a sort of, strange grin, and then she slaps her hands together again, and then suddenly you are on the ground. And you'll notice that, it seemed to almost be like a blink. You notice that, you didn't necessarily blink like your character. I mean, you might have, I don't know if you did, but it almost happened like a blink, right? So now you're giving them a little clue. You're giving them insight into maybe what's going on. And for the record, you do want to know what's going on as the game master. So for me in this situation, I'm thinking what's going on is there's like a dimensional, like an extra dimensional pocket within this house that this little girl lives in. And when they walked into the house, they walked into it, and she has a certain level of control over the physical reality of this dimension, including the ability to open and close the door of the dimension. But these player characters don't even realize that they've walked into it, right? So illusion, that's not the answer. Trying to just see, what's going on, that's not the answer. Eventually they may come upon the answer. However, right now they don't know the answer, and that is leverage. Now, I'm not going to try to just uncannily hide all the answers from them just to try to scare them, because here's another thing that's really important to understand. Scariness in a game is special. It's sort of like romance, and it's sort of like real legitimate affection or caring or feeling that's significant of any kind. We can only manufacture the conditions where it is likely to show up. We cannot actually manufacture the emotions. Thus, if you succeed in making your players a little scared for 30 seconds of the game, this is a big win. If you have the expectation that you're going to create this 40-minute segment of dread where they're going to be afraid for the whole 40 minutes, this isn't really realistic. I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, but to plan that is trying to plan things you don't have any control over. What you can plan is for a segment of, basically environment that your players may choose to go through. And when they do go through it, if they go through it, then you can show them the things you planned to show them that you prepped, and then you can try to deliver it in such a way that will evoke those emotions. And like I said, and the formula was what I said before. They have to be invested in the story. They have to care about in-game consequences. Like there has to be something in this game that matters to them enough that they fear losing it or they fear it being in danger. And then they need to not really understand the true nature of the danger, and it needs to be there need to be vast swaths of the truth of what they're facing that is unknown to them, that gets revealed to them in chapters. And these revelations themselves are scary because they are showing the player characters how little they know about the situation and how just out of context their understanding is. So that's the formula. But I really want to impress upon you the importance of understanding that feelings can't be created on purpose in D&D. Only situations that may inspire those feelings can be created. So you can try to create the perfect conditions for a scary session, but be a little gentle on yourself. Don't go in there thinking, well, if my players aren't scared of this session, I failed. No, because you had no control over whether they were going to feel any fear or not. All you have control over is the session. And to be honest, the better you do and the better you get at designing a scary session, the more likely they are to feel fear. But there are also variables you can't control. You can't really control, for example, how attentive a player is by nature. You can control to a certain extent how interesting your game is, but you can't control whether or not players are actually going to pay attention to your game. This is why choosing players and vetting players is so important. I really believe that we need to be very selective in how we vet players. I think we should really only game with players who want to play the same kind of game that we do, who want to be as invested as we are. Otherwise, you might be putting all this effort in for people who are only going to put 50% as much attention in as you're putting in effort. And that's a feel bad, frustrating thing that can discourage you, right? Now, a minute ago, I talked about how, you can sometimes translate the scariness and the dread from in-game to out of game, actually creating that sort of effect similar to when people watch horror movies and they actually are a little afraid. You can sometimes inspire this to a certain extent in your games, but there are some conditions that need to be there first in order for this to happen at all. And I want to share those with you. But first, I just want to remind you that the purpose of this channel is to empower game masters from better games. And I give away a free ebook called the 10-Minute GM Mastery Toolkit. This free ebook packs in the 10 most important lessons I've learned in over 20 years of running games into a 10-minute read so that you can level up your next session instantly. You can download this for free. You'll join my email list and you'll get some pretty awesome emails in the future as I email out cool stuff. Plus, maybe this book will help you to make your next session even better than ever. That is one of the ways that I try to support the mission of this channel. And then another thing that I want to share with you is that I'm making a really enthusiastic and energetic effort to grow this channel and to make it better and to make it more helpful for game masters. So you can help me do this in a number of ways. If you like the content and you enjoy watching it, I could really use your help. Number one, there are bills to pay here, and so you can buy me a coffee, help support the channel financially through my Ko-Fi. You can also purchase my premium ebook, like I mentioned earlier in the video. That might help you to build more emotional resonance with your characters, and it's priced at a very affordable introductory price right now because it's brand new. And of course, if you don't have any money to spare, you can also hit that subscribe button and that thumbs up button. This is also so helpful. Plus, you can join our free Discord. Link is in the description. Over 500 game masters hanging out talking about TTRPGs and how to run better games. We have a looking for games section and we run contests and all kinds of cool stuff. So also join that. Now, with that being said, I want to describe this. Okay. If you can manage to get your players really invested to where they're really engrossed in the game, to where they are solely focused on it, and the environment is just right. Environment plays a big role because things that distract from the game take away from the focus. So the focus is the powerful, like basically energy element here. Okay. So for example, if you're running this game in person and you're in the room, you can turn the lights low, light a few candles during the session, light some incense, put on some kind of like low, creepy music, really set the tone, set the scene, cut out all needless distractions. Don't be having the TV going in the next room. Don't be having, weird music bumping in the next room. Make the environment incredibly conducive to zoning in, focusing in on the game, and then do things that are really shocking that will make the player characters envision those things and be a little freaked out by them. And here's how they would be freaked out by them. They can only actually be freaked out by them if they are so focused on the story that they're truly envisioning it in their head. So we have the story going on in the collective consciousness of the players and you as the game master. But if you can get the player characters to be running this narrative and the pictures and the visuals in their mind, really in their mind, right? Like they're literally walking through it as if they're watching a movie in their mind, which that is how I feel when I'm deeply engrossed in playing a game. Not only as the game master, but also as a player. I really run through the scenes like I'm so focused that I almost see it play out like a movie, and this is so much fun. Now, if you can get your players that invested and cut out all distractions, and this is harder to do on VTT because you can't control what distractions are or aren't going on, where they are because they're somewhere else. So that's why it's a little harder to do. But if you can get your players into that zone, right? And you can help yourself in a VTT by cutting out VTT distractions, right? You can cut out needless noise, make sure everyone's mic is working well, make sure there's no weird, annoying hums or pops or static noises going on, unless they're static noises that are contributing to the creepiness. You can play some low music over the VTT, that's like a little creepy, and make sure the volumes are right, and make sure that your screen looks great, and make sure your maps are looking great and you're showing great visuals, so you can really help to cut out distractions and get people's attention focused. If you can get players to start envisioning the story in their mind, and then you can create shock, right? So for example, I one time ran in my Haunting at Ashborough campaign that I ran, is the very first VTT I ever ran. There was a scene where the players were fighting a ghostly girl in a church, and one of the players, grabbed her and was basically grappling her, and then her head turned all the way around and she screamed in the monk's face, and then the player was like, "Oh my God!" Like it's because that she wasn't expecting that to happen, and it was kind of a shocking thing, and it showed them that there were. Like they kind of thought, oh, we have this under control. We're smacking her with things. Now we have her grappled. We're basically obeying the laws of physics here. This isn't too big of a deal. But then her head spins all the way around and she shrieks, and then she launches like an attack. And then it's like, oh God, like this is actually different than we thought, right? It's like a shocking moment that also reveals that there is unknown going on and shows them how out of context their belief about the physicality, about the reality of the situation was. If you can pull this off, you can actually kind of scare players. And my player, she said after the session, I haven't been scared very many times playing a game, but that actually like startled and kind of made me scared, like that scene. And it was a really fun scene because the players were so like invested in it, and that adds to it. If your players aren't really that invested, this whole trying to scare them thing, it's unfortunately they're going to miss out on the magic because they're not paying as much attention, because they're not fully buying in and taking part of the visual of the what's going on in their mind. And I understand that not every player thinks in pictures. This is also true, but that doesn't have to stifle this. Everyone is going to kind of run through these thoughts in their mind in their own way. Whether or not they think of visuals is irrelevant. It's about the context, about what they think is going on, and about the actual danger level, and that they are so bought in that they're thinking through it, and it's almost like they're watching a movie and it's in their mind playing, and that makes it more personal. And that's how we kind of experience movies. We're so into the movie that it's like we're almost in it, right? So I'm trying to explain this the best I can. I hope that I've done a good job. Drop a comment. Let me know how you make your session scary. Let me know if you have ever pulled this off, making your players a little bit afraid, invoking some real fun, dread, and horror at your table. And friends, that's going to be it for this one. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of Gym Philosophy in the Morning. Empowering game masters to run better games is the mission. So smash that thumbs up button and that like button, and I'll see you awesome people on the next one.